So some of you may know I was born in Omaha, Nebraska, small town, right? Roughly small town. And from there, I didn't live there too long. Moved out when I was like 3. Moved to Lincoln for a while, and you know, my dad worked at Jets Appliance Company for a long time. He became service manager, and then he decided to leave that company. And I don't know all the details about it, but he was charged of embezzling money by that company, and he was sentenced to jail for 20 years. So it was a long process that me, my siblings, my mother had to go through. And basically, my mom had to raise me and my older siblings for a long time, and that's where I got my work ethic. We moved to after we found out the news, and my dad went to prison in Lincoln jail. We moved to Pensacola, Florida, for 7.5 years. I just spent my life, being a kid until I turned about 12, and then I started getting into the job because my mom could not provide for us fully and comfortably. So I had to work at diners. I was a busboy. I used to mow yards for a lot of people just to bring that extra income of cash that we did not have. And I just had to learn that responsibility at such a young age. And, it really shaped me as the person I am now. But on the good side, 8 years have gone by. I was 14, and my dad came back into my life. He was found innocent after 8 years, and we got nothing from it. So I didn't get to see my dad for 8 years. He was just non-existent. And a little side thing that, I really appreciate my mom for doing is that she did not, talk to any other guys or anything like that. She stayed faithful to her husband, my father, for those 8 years of time. And when he came back into my life, I felt this weight lifted off my shoulders, just this freedom. And it was a great feeling for like, a good week. It was a great feeling. But as time gone by, I realized that freedom without responsibility can take everything. Just like our country that we live in, we need responsible people to keep up our country as of, our soldiers fighting for our freedom, our good government, keeping us up there. But, it was one of those things where when you lose that discipline, responsibility, it can really take you on a downhill slope. And from a background point, I was not raised in a Christian home. I knew that there was a higher power. I just didn't believe in it myself for a long time. And I just did not have that relationship with Jesus that I should have had from a young age. And when I felt free, that freedom became very dangerous. And that just brings me to this verse that I have written here, Galatians 5:13. For you have been called to live in freedom, my brothers and sisters, but don't use your freedom to satisfy your sinful nature. Instead, use the freedom to serve another in love. That's from the NLT. So just going back on it, I lost my discipline. I started making excuses. I lost my responsibilities. I started hanging out with the wrong friends. And the small compromises became bigger and bigger. And those just bring me into my heart years. My dad came back into my life when I was 14. And when I was 15 and 16, I really just went downhill. Like I said, I knew there was a higher power. I had a relationship with God, but I had given my life to Him. I started drifting further. I ignored the conviction that I heard because I did go to church at a place in Lincoln that shall remain nameless. And all those, just all those compromises led me to go further and further to where one night I was sitting in the back of a police car after getting into a fight that I thought was right, but it was just my pride taking over. And when I was sitting in that police car, there was a lot of thoughts going through my head. One of them was, how did I get here? Like, it just seemed like a couple weeks ago, I got that freedom. And laziness wasn't just a problem. I found out it wasn't just I'm making all these choices. It was also a heart issue. I just completely lost motivation, self-respect, and it just kept on going down. Now that led me into the year. Y'all know casting. It was one of my favorite jobs. I started when I was 13. And I met a very friendly fella that invited me here when I was 16. Very funny guy. So I decided to go. This was year of 2023, and that was a fun year. It's just a fun year. So I started going to the youth group here, and I didn't pay attention at all to the sermons. I came for the food. I came for the games. I came for the fun. That's just how my mind worked. Sometimes you tell you guys, oh, just invite your friends, tell them that you have good snacks. That's what got me here. What's snacks? I like chips. The sour cream and onion. It's great. So I started, coming here in 2023 of the summer, and about 6 months have gone by. I was hearing the word, but I wasn't accepting it. I had this knowledge, but I wasn't receiving it. So that led us to the rain retreat, which is right there. That was where I met Mr. Keaton. And that retreat changed my life forever. So I had that knowledge, but what Michael taught there was from start to finish on how to give your life to Christ. So the first couple days went by, and I just had this, I don't want to say voice, I think it was just my flesh just telling me that I'm not worth it, that God does not have grace, and I did way too much. And for those past couple days, every night, I'd be sitting there praying, and I get those same thoughts in my head. I'm not worth it. I'm never going to see it. I can't. I just done too much. So on the fourth day, which was the last day, Michael came up for an altar call. And some of you may know him, Ezekiel was there. And he was, he had a condition of scoliosis. And Michael prayed over him. And that was my first miracle I ever saw. Right on the spot, Ezekiel was healed. And that really affected a lot of the youth, including me. And right after that moment, I was standing there. I realized what happened. I went to go sit down at the table. And later that night, Michael came up to me and asked me what was wrong. Because I was sitting there for over 45 minutes just thinking. So I told him what has been on my mind, what's been on my heart. And he prayed with me. He prayed over me. He called some of the youth leaders to pray over me. And right there, I was saved. And I didn't go back. Come on. And after that retreat, we went home and I had no job. I didn't have any self respect. I still had these physical scars that could be healed, but it took a long time to get back to where I was. So I started working at Hy-Vee, like a lot of us older folk have done in the past. And even though it's such a simple job, I know God put me there for a reason. I worked in produce. It was very fun. I was there for 2 weeks, and this guy came up to me, and he asked me if I was okay. And for the first time in my life, I didn't hesitate, and I said yes. He asked if I could pray over him, and for the first time in my life, I didn't hesitate. I said yes. That was the turning point in my life, was right there. Even though I was reborn at that rain retreat on the fourth day, I didn't realize what God has given me until like 3 weeks later. So slowly and slowly, I started following Jesus. I became disciplined. I got a job. And just recently, I heard God calling me to business. And it was kind of scary because for the first time ever, I actually heard the Lord. Like physically heard the Lord. I didn't think that was a thing. So after that, I talked to Michael about it, and apparently it's a thing. I had to look at it for myself. It was just a great thing to get into. So if you told me right now, or 5 years ago, if I would have ever imagined me standing here in front of you guys, I would have said no. Like my life was so screwed up. And the reason why I tell you guys this is because I don't want you to go through the same thing I went through. There's a lot of stuff that hurt me, that was very painful, that I just love you guys. I don't want you guys to go through that. So I had to learn step by step on what to do daily. So that brings me to Luke 9:23. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. And I started digging into the word so much. I just got so intrigued after that conversation I had with that guy at Hy-Vee. And I really just got into following Jesus daily. You have to surrender. Discipline is part of discipleship, and discipline starts where negotiation ends. You have to stop negotiating with your flesh. Choose obedience before feelings. Sometimes we let our feelings control us too much. And sometimes you just have to stick it out and be disciplined. Because God didn't call us to follow our feelings, He called us to follow Him. Now, where am I at now? Like I said, God has been calling me into business. And I'm also learning, even right now. You're never too old to learn. I'm obviously not too old, but even though I gave my life to the Lord such a long time ago, about 4 years, I still have so much to learn. Like, you could learn something every single day from the Bible. You just got to know where to read. I guess going back on when I got invited here, you never know who you can invite. It'll change their life forever. It's planting that little seed in that person. And from planting that seed, they can get invited here. And they will invite somebody else. And just keeps on going with the spread. Like, I never would have thought that one guy inviting me here would completely change my life. I would have, I would have been in a totally different situation if you didn't. What I want you guys to do is to take a few minutes and pray to God and ask Him if you're going through those hard years, how He could work through you. Let Him into your life. Jesus, I thank you for this season that you're going through now. I thank you for what I've gone through, for what you taught me, and what you shaped me into today. I pray that my words infected you in front of me now. I pray that they receive these words and they just start giving their life to you in Jesus' name. I pray that they have a safe, private home. Amen.